Hello, and welcome to an introduction to the Supports Intensity Scale Adult Version presentation, presented by Public Consulting Group in partnership with the Vermont Department of Disabilities, Aging, and Independent Living Developmental Disabilities Services Division. In today's presentation, you will learn about who we are. You'll learn about the Supports Intensity Scale Adult Version Assessment. We'll talk about the assessment process, how assessment information can be used, and provide you with contact information. Who we are. The main project team consists of Brittany Trujillo, who is a program and quality manager for this project, Lori Williams, who is the quality lead, and John Riley, who is the project manager. PCG has hired 4 assessors to conduct assessments throughout Vermont: Sandra McIntyre, Samantha Martin, Danielle Sachs, and Catherine Higgins. As you look at your screen, you can see that all assessors have several years of experience in human services, working with people with disabilities, including people with intellectual and developmental disabilities, and they are all based throughout Vermont. Public Consulting Group was founded in 1986 and is headquartered in Boston, Massachusetts. We employ more than 2,500 individuals in over 60 offices. We are a management consulting firm that primarily works with public sector agencies in areas of human services, health, education, technology consulting, and public partnerships, whose focus is participant direction programs. Let's talk about the Supports Intensity Scale Adult Version Assessment. What is the Supports Intensity Scale Adult Version, or SIS A, assessment? The SIS A is a standardized assessment that measures the pattern and intensity of supports that an adult, who's considered 16 years and older, with intellectual and developmental disabilities requires to be successful in community settings. The SIS was created by the American Association on Intellectual and Developmental Disabilities, or AAIDD, between the years of 1998 and 2003. The SIS was created because of changes in how people viewed and related to people with disabilities. AAIDD is a professional organization founded in 1876. They promote progressive policies, sound research, effective practices, and universal rights for people with intellectual and developmental disabilities. The original SIS was released in 2004, and what we've learned is that the SIS helps to foster positive hopes, focus on appropriate activities that improve a person's life, and helps create a person-centered plan. Why was the SIS created? AAIDD firmly believes that people with disabilities deserve to experience the same rights and responsibilities, explore dreams and expectations, discover and access opportunities that are available to other adults in their community, just as other adults without disabilities. They also believe that people should be able to participate as a part of a larger community rather than in a segregated or separate setting. The SIS provides a reliable framework to quantify the support needs of people with disabilities by focusing on these supports and these rights. Why was the SIS A chosen? Vermont chose this through a very extensive stakeholder process and determined that ultimately the SIS A is a strength-based assessment. It focuses on what support a person needs, not what that person can't do. It is not an adaptive behavioral scale, and it is a reliable and valid assessment, which means it is getting the information it was designed or created to get. In addition, the SIS A is consistent with Vermont values of community inclusion, self-direction, individual choice and control, and person-centered services. What does the SIS A assess? There are 3 sections for the SIS A assessment. The first section is called Section 1 and includes Section 1A, Exceptional Medical, and Section 1B, Exceptional or Extraordinary Behavioral Supports. This section is assessing and documenting the extra supports a person needs related to any medical or behavioral conditions or diagnoses. The Exceptional medical includes 18 questions, and exceptional behavioral support includes 12 questions. An example question from Section 1A, Exceptional Medical Support, is the dressing of open wounds. Does the person need assistance with the cleaning and dressing of open wounds or sores? The either no support, some support, or extensive support. An example question from Section 1B, Behavioral Support, is the prevention of stealing. Does the person have needs related to stealing or taking other people's property, shoplifting, or so on, deliberately or otherwise? And again, it's either no support, some support, or extensive support. The next section is Section 2, the Support Needs Index. This contains 6 subsections of home living activities, community living activities, lifelong learning activities, employment activities, health and safety, and social activities. These 6 subsections contain a total of 57 life activities which are assessed and rated using 3 measures. Type, what kind of support is needed, the frequency, how often is the support needed, and the amount, how much time is needed to provide the support. An example question from this section is home living activities, eating food. The focus of this item is on the supports associated with safely ingesting foods and beverages for nourishment in all environments throughout the day. Primary considerations include placing food into the mouth, chewing, and swallowing. Secondary considerations include the assisting with or teaching of utensils, including adapted utensils, also based on culture, so things like knives, forks, spoons, or chopsticks, for example. What is not included in this area are table manners. The third section of the SIS A is Section 3, Supplemental Protection and Advocacy. This section is assessing the various activities an individual performs to protect and advocate for themselves using the same 3 measures we saw in Section 2. The type of support. What kind of support is needed? Is it prompting or cueing? Or do you physically need to assist somebody using your own hands? The frequency. How often is the support needed? Is this once a month, every week, or daily, for example? And then time. How much time is needed to provide the support? If support is provided once a week, how much time is needed once a week? Is it for 1 hour? Is it 2 hours? And so on. An example question for supplemental protection and advocacy is obtaining legal services. The focus of this item is on supports to contact an attorney for legal services. Primary considerations are identifying when legal assistance is needed, attending and participating in initial visits with an attorney to explain issues and concerns. Secondary considerations would be accessing or using legal services, such as a legal aid or a parole officer. Like many other states who use the SIS A assessment, Vermont has chosen to include supplemental questions that are important to the community of Vermont. For any item in Section 1A, Extensive Medical, or Section 1B, Behavioral Support Needs, that have a score of 2, assessors will ask these additional questions. What kind of support should be provided to meet this need? How frequently is support needed? On a typical day when that support is needed, how much time should be devoted to providing that support? During what time of day is the support needed? And then any other additional information relevant to any items scored with a 2 in 1A or 1B. Vermont has also added supplemental questions related to parenting. Is the individual being assessed currently parenting or expecting a child? Is there any child 18 years or younger living in the home? Are the parents receiving any services from DCF? And then what supports would be helpful? The last supplemental question is around sleep. Does the person require or need supports regarding sleeping? If so, what kind of support should be provided to meet the need? How frequently is that support needed? On a typical night when support is needed, how much time is devoted or should be to providing that support, and then any other additional information related to sleeping. Who is administering the SIS A? Requirements from Vermont, one, are that the person is a qualified intellectual disability professional. That can mean many things, but for purposes of this work, it means a minimum of 1 year working with people with intellectual and/or developmental disabilities. SIS A assessors also have to become a recognized SIS assessor. That means they have successfully completed the AAIDD developed classroom training, they've conducted practice assessments, and they successfully completed the interviewer reliability and quality review, which means they've been observed by a recognized SIS trainer and scoring meets a threshold or requirement to be determined successful. Who should attend the SIS A assessment? Overall, we want people who have known the individual for at least 3 months. That really means people who can describe the day-to-day support that the individual needs. People who attend the assessment are called respondents, and those people can be the individual who should be there, any family, a guardian, any direct support staff, case managers, teachers, supervisors. This can also include friends. Again, it needs to be people who have known the individual for at least 3 months and can describe the day-to-day support the individual needs. Let's talk a little about the assessment process. How are assessments getting scheduled? In this first year, we've received an initial sample from DAL containing 500 to 700 individuals. Individuals are located throughout the state of Vermont and residing in various settings or living arrangements. Some are with family, some are in shared living, some live independently, and so on. PCG is working with Vermont or DAIL and agencies to obtain necessary information about each individual. That includes date of birth, contact information, if assistive technology is needed for communication, if interpreters are needed, etc. After this first year, the referral process will look much differently, and we are currently working with Vermont to establish that process. PCG has a scheduling team who will contact the individual, family, or guardian, whoever is identified as the primary contact, to schedule the assessment at a time convenient to the individual, family, or guardian. If no one answers when we call, we will leave a message with our return phone number, which is 1-833-930-3543. Messages can be left there and will be forwarded to the scheduling team. Once the assessment is scheduled, all members of the respondent team, so everyone who will be at the assessment, will receive a confirmation email of the assessment date and time. This is an example process of how assessments will get scheduled. Receiving the sample, that's PCG. Working with agencies to get additional information. Getting the information back from all the agencies. We may need to work with case managers to get more information. We will contact individuals to set up the assessment. Again, if we don't hear a response by a certain amount of time, we will also work with case managers to assist in that process. We'll provide all necessary information to the respondents to attend the assessment, and we will conduct the assessment, and eventually a family-friendly report will be sent to the case manager. What's happening at the assessment? Initially, beginning July 1, assessments will occur virtually using Microsoft Teams. We are currently working with Vermont to determine the time that in-person assessments will take place, and will also take into consideration individual or respondents' wishes regarding in-person assessments due to the COVID pandemic. Again, for virtual assessments, they will be conducted using Microsoft Teams. Everyone will log into the Microsoft Teams invite, which will be included in the initial invitation for the assessment. Assessors will introduce the SIS A assessment, talk about the process of the assessment, the purpose, review the SIS booklet, and review the guide to rating. Then the assessors will conduct the assessment. Each section will be introduced, and assessors will let respondents know which item is being scored, the focus of the item, and primary considerations of the item. On average, assessments take approximately 2 hours. Some take longer, some can be shorter. We are working with individuals, and this is an individual assessment, so it does vary based off the person. However, the average length of time is 2 hours. What happens after the assessment? The assessor will enter all of the scoring and related information into the electronic or online database called SIS Online. Once that is complete and final, the assessor will email a copy of the assessment to the individual's case manager. The case manager will then provide a copy of that assessment to the individual, family, and/or guardian if requested. What is the role of the case manager? The role of the case manager is to collaborate with PCG to provide individual, family, or guardian contact information and other information necessary to schedule and conduct the assessment. Their job will eventually be to send referrals to PCG when an individual needs to be assessed. Again, that process is still in the works and will be determined later. The role is also to provide a copy of the assessment to the individual, family, or guardian. In addition, case managers should use the information gained from the SIS A assessment to assist in the development of a person-centered service plan. And their role can also be to participate in the assessment if asked by the individual, family, or guardian. What is the role of other provider staff? Like the case manager, other provider staff can participate in the assessment if asked by the individual, family, or guardian. Other provider staff should coordinate and collaborate with the case manager and PCG in scheduling the SIS when needed. And their role is also to use information from the assessment to inform the delivery of person-centered services. How can the assessment information be used? In 2014, the federal government, who provides funding for these programs, published new requirements for person-centered service plan development. Some of those requirements include that the service plan must reflect the individual's strengths and preferences, that the service plan reflect the individual's clinical and support needs as identified through an assessment, and that the service plan includes goals and desired outcomes. Information from the SIS A supports these federal requirements. The SIS A allows assessors to capture what is important to and important for individuals. We are also capturing support needs. We're looking at activities, the types of support, the frequency of support, and the amount. And aligning with those important to and important for can also include goals and outcomes for individuals. That brings us to the end of our presentation. On this next slide, I will provide contact information. Should you have any questions or concerns about the SIS A, Vermont's work, how this work aligns with larger initiatives throughout Vermont, please send an email to A as in Apple, H, S as in Sam, dot, D as in David, AIL hyphen sisainfo at vermont.gov. Thank you for listening to this presentation.